For those of you that are in, welcome. We're going to give it a few minutes and then get started. For those of you that are on, can you guys hear me pretty good, or should I speak up? Can you just chat it for me? I want to test it. Thank you. Four minutes and counting. I understand we had close to 400 folks sign up, so there's definitely an interest in safety. That's good to see. Hello, Carmen from Delaware. I see your hello here. Thank you. Happy week, Corey. So many familiar faces. We got Florida in the house. Hi, Jennifer. I don't think you guys can see the chat, so, but a lot of folks chiming in. I love it. We got the power of WIC Week behind us. I'm going to start right on time in 2 minutes to respect your time. Cincinnati, Michigan. Wow. I'm wearing my jacket because I'm freezing. I'm in California and it's 60. I feel ashamed saying that, but I'm cold. Now just see all these different states with snow and oh my gosh. Washington, Alaska. Good morning. Colorado, Phoenix, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia in the house, Chicago. Look at that. Tennessee. Pittsburgh. Good thing I'm not shy, because then I might be intimidated by so many folks across the country. Very good. Oh, we got Arizona, Flagstaff. Snowy Flagstaff. Sorry. I'm cold. Washington, South Carolina, sunny South Carolina. There you go. It's usually sunny here, but it's definitely not today. Very cool. My gosh, got people from everywhere. It's gonna be a lively group. I can feel it. Rochester, Minnesota, Spokane, Washington. So Savannah, you're there for me. So give me, it's 11 o'clock. So just give me a 10-minute warning.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, good morning in the West Coast, good afternoon in Central and East Coast. I thank you everybody that's chiming in. I see so many people from across the nation. This is one of the larger attended webinars, and I'm really excited to be here. I get to introduce myself. So my name is Marjorie Del Toro. I am the CEO of EHS International. I started this business 29 years ago. We're an environmental health and safety compliance firm, and we do work primarily in the state of California, but we do have a national platform. So I'm really excited to be here. in NAWIC. I'm also currently the Pacific Southwest Safety Chair. But the last couple of years prior to taking this position, I was the National OSHA Alliance Chair. So I had the privilege of representing all of you ladies, and thanks, gents, whoever's here. I know we have a mixed crowd, but I had the privilege of representing you on a national level. And I was just so excited to be part of the new construction PPE rule that came into play just late last year. So I'm super excited about that. It's a win for all of us. So I've also served on a state board here in the state of California. I was appointed by the Governor Brown, and I just completed my tenure in 2024. But that was quite the experience on the regulatory side of things. So I've been in the industry for a long time, and I kind of laughed about when I realized that there was an administration shift. They've asked me to come and speak, and then all of a sudden I realized we could literally have this webinar in 60 seconds. I mean, we all know we're with the new administration that there's deregulation. So I don't anticipate much happening. If anything, there might be just some dismantling. So I had to take a little different approach on this webinar. So I'm just going to go ahead, and I thought maybe we'll give a little bit of an insight, because if you're here, you're obviously passionate about safety, and it's really important to know what's going on in industry, who's going to lead us. So I'm going to take that round and just kind of introduce to you, if you don't already know, who's going to take the realm and learn a little bit about them. And then we'll go into some of hold on, let me switch over. Better. Hold on. There we go. So we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about what's going on in industry, some of the new regulations that came in under the Biden administration. And then we're going to talk about really what I believe is going to happen. I did do research. I did go out and take a lot of time just kind of taking a look at what industry and what people are saying within our industry, and see where we're heading with the new Department of Labor, and specifically, obviously, OSHA. So this is just a little agenda. We're going to, obviously, I mentioned previous administration. We're going to talk a little bit about the current administration, nominees. We just had a confirmation, which we'll talk about. And then we're going to talk about the 2025 regulations, the ones that are pending and the ones that just came in probably late last year. And then where we stand today. Again, this is my opinion, and this is, I'm in industry, so I hear a lot of conversations happening. So I'm not an attorney, but I have been in industry for a long time. So let's get started. Now, the way we're going to, just some housekeeping, Savannah from NAWIC is actually going to monitor the chat. If you have questions while I'm moving along, go ahead and put those in. There's also a Q&A. So you can certainly do that. If I don't answer it today, I will absolutely take a look at it and respond to you. Also, I'm going to give you a copy of this presentation, but if you want it, you need to ask for it. So just go ahead and put your email in the chat and just say, send me a copy of the presentation. I'll be more than happy to do that after the webinar. Give me a few days. We're in WIC week. It's pretty busy. So here we are. Elephant in the room. You guys can see the OSHA Act slide, right? I just want to make sure everything's working on my end. So we've all, if you're in safety, you've heard NOSHA. NOSHA. Is there not going to be an OSHA? And so I just wanted to attack that right away. So here you see that Andy Biggs, a Republican from Arizona, actually introduced this bill into the House. He tried to do this back in 2021, and he again did it in 2025. So it's called NOSHA because it stands for Nullify Occupational Safety and Health Administration Act, the NOSHA Act. So what's in this bill? See the second spotlight there? That's exactly how it's written. That's it, 2 sentences. It says, the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970 is repealed. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration is, abolished. Good luck with that. So currently, as we stand, there's no co-sponsors, so we don't, and there's only one committee, which we know who that is. So get that out of your head. No, OSHA's not going away. If anything, it's going to slow down. And just should the proposal, ever come to a vote, given the current makeup of Congress, the probability of having the votes to either eliminate OSHA or repeal the OSHA Act is close to 0. So Don't worry about it. And besides that, some of us in California, especially, I think Washington, we have our own OSHA regulations. So the state, that they're not going to back off on that. So federal OSHA is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. If anything's going to happen, it's obviously going to look a little bit different. So, looking at my notes here. Oh, what I did too, also, so you know, the QR codes, this is actually links you to the executive order of the deregulation process that the Trump administration put out. But go ahead and scan those and it'll take you straight to the link. So you'll see that throughout my presentation because I really wanted to give you the resource and see where I found this. And that way you can follow up on that if you're interested, if you're a safety nerd like I am. Just go ahead and usually, take advantage of those. Sorry, hold on. Gotta get this old fashioned way. All right, so what's going on? What was going on under the leadership of Biden? As you can see here, we have the Honorable Doug Parker that has led the way the last 4 years. I had the privilege of meeting him and being on several roundtable discussions in the construction division. So he was the assistant of labor for the Occupational Safety and Health, and his main focus was the vulnerable worker. So as I mentioned, I have attended many roundtables discussion in Washington, D.C. In the room were many stakeholders in the construction industry. As NAWIC's National OSHA Alliance Chair, I had the privilege of being your voice. So one of the most proud moments that I have is that I was part of, towards the end, I was able to be the voice. Obviously, there's a lot of folks we've been talking about fitted PPE for the last 10 years, but it was exciting to be part of that discussion and to be part of that legislation when the bill actually came into effect. So we all know most companies have already, focusing on fitted PPE, but it is mandated in the general industry. It just wasn't mandated in the construction industry. So we're really excited to have a focus of being on women in construction. And that's one thing I have to say, under Doug Parker's leadership, they really were focused on women in construction, specifically the construction industry. When I attended, last year, they formed a committee that specifically focused on women in construction. So yay for us. We're being heard and we're making waves. I know we're about 11% of the industry right now, but it's growing. They're looking at us. We had during WIC Week, we've had some great presentation from leaders in the construction industry saying, hey, we need you. So it's really exciting. Hopefully we'll get a lot more and just, we're already shaking things up, ladies. So let's keep doing that and make our voices heard during this great week. So, anyways, he was really great at that. I'm really excited about that, amongst other things that they put together, obviously, which we'll go into. So I'm just hoping with the new administration that we don't lose that momentum. And we have some great leaders in NAWIC. We have, Kate Dobson, who's your OSHA Alliance Chair for the next three years, I believe. And she's going to be representing us, and she's great. She's been part of industry for many, many years and has actually made a lot of changes and waves for us. So I'm excited to watch her and see what happens here in this new administration. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put them in there. Just don't ask me legal questions. So what new standards were introduced during the Biden administration? So COVID vaccination, obviously, when they first came in 2021, it was all about COVID. So we had a couple of years there that were just shut down and focusing, especially OSHA. They were just focusing on this COVID-19 prevention requirements. So what's great about this now, if you haven't heard, as of January 15th, the U.S. Department of Labor terminated COVID-19 healthcare rulemaking. So this is specifically really for healthcare, but it's terminated. So the rule that was put in, I believe it wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, but 2021 has now been, turned around. So doesn't mean they're not going to keep focusing on COVID. Obviously they are, but they're going to focus mostly on infectious disease and healthcare and how to protect the healthcare workers. So that's going to be their main focus. In California, we announced that as of February 3rd, regulatory requirements for COVID-19 prevention in the workplace disappears. So that's just a little update on that. Things are going to keep evolving. We all know, we heard till we're blue in the face about the heat illness prevention, indoor, outdoor. So that's at a standstill right now. We'll talk a little bit about what's happening or what I perceived to happen. We won't know until we actually have, an assistant director in that position. So there was also walk around rule that came into effect. We'll talk more into detail. The infectious disease, which kind of goes off of COVID and just focusing more on infectious disease. And that's mostly for, again, for healthcare. There's emergency response that's focusing on healthcare. So we won't dive into that because we're in construction. And the horrible, my clients hate it, electronic record keeping. It's just so confusing. There's 3 different forms. So that I know for sure is going to be on a standstill. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So we're under a new administration, Trump administration, and this is not going to be a political, I'm just sharing the facts with you. So I know there's a lot of emotions on both sides, but what I did is I put a QR code here so you can go straight to the EO that's entitled, if you haven't read it, Unleashing Prosperity Through Deregulation. So make sure you take a look at that. So what in general it says, if you recall, on Trump's first administration, he had done a similar EO, but he had actually, for every one rule, 2 existing regulations should be withdrawn. But now I guess he said, hey, why stop at 2? Let's do 10. So again, I'm coming to you as a small business owner, as well as obviously someone that's super passionate in safety and especially in women in construction. So just know it's going to take a long time. I just don't anticipate much action happening except deregulation action. So, we'll have to see and watch how things play out. Our favorite word, DOGE. So Department of General Efficiency. Again, Trump said, I just quoted him so you can see on your slide. It says, pave the way for the administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash excess regulations, cut wasteful spending, and restructure Fed agencies. And boy, they went right in. So we anticipate, most likely than not, that they're going to slash the Department of Labor's budget. So what does that mean to us? They're going to scale back on enforcement. There's going to be less inspectors out there. So you're going to see that there is going to be less, I like to say boots in the ground, but doesn't mean they're going to stop. They're just, what they're going to do is take those folks and really focus on the high risk industry, which is obviously construction. So just don't get complacent. They're still going to be out there. But absolutely, I don't anticipate any new regulations coming in. They are going to focus on revising the field operations manuals and enforcement policies that increase civil penalties. So as I talk about this, keep in mind the deregulation process is not like you snap your fingers and it's gone. That's not how it works. You actually have to engage in rulemaking to get rid of the rule. So how long does it take us to get one rule passed? It takes us years. When I served on the state in California, I was part of this rulemaking process, and I tell you, it's a cumbersome, process, but it doesn't happen overnight. It takes years. Sometimes we get new regulations, but I don't think I've ever seen more than 3 or 4 new regulations on each administration. So just keep that in mind. Drink some water here. All right, so here we have Representative Lori Chavez. Some people say DeRemere. I think it's DeRemmer. So she's finally confirmed. I reviewed this PowerPoint just yesterday, and I went back because I hadn't researched it in a couple of weeks and find out was confirmed. So who is she? She's a U.S. representative for Oregon's 5th Congressional District from 2023 to 2025. She was the former mayor of Happy Valley in Oregon from 2010 to 2018, where she worked on economic development and job creation initiatives. Her background is in business. She is a small business owner. I believe her husband's a physician, if I'm not wrong. And she has a strong emphasis on perspective and labor policy. So she's probably the most pro-union Republican in Congress. Her father, I believe, was a lead Teamster for like 30 years. So she was really known to be a pro-union. So I did watch her confirmation hearing, and she tended to backpedal a little bit on her stance. For those of you that are in safety and are aware, there's a PRO Act that she was backing a few years ago. And when I was listening to her hearing, she clearly stated that, you know, she wouldn't sign that or be part of that today and who she is today. So we're going to wait and hear what happens. But she did, the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pension Committee on last Thursday advanced the nomination of Ms. Chavez Drimmer, to be Labor Secretary, and the vote was 14-9. So she's here, folks. I'm up to, you know, I think it's going to be great. She really seems to be focused on the workforce from what I hear. So I did put in the last slide that I have, I made a QR code for the actual hearing. So I highly encourage you, because it really will give you a good insight on who she is and what her goals seem to be. So some of the statements that I wrote down here, and I'm going to read them verbatim when I was listening to her hearing. One of the things that stood out to me is she says, quote, guiding principle will be ensuring a level playing field for business unions and most importantly, the American, worker. She also said putting American workers first is not just a vision, but a promise to fight for every working mom, single dad, small business owner, and every American striving for their fair shot at the American dream. So there's an opening statement that you can actually download and read through it if you don't want to watch the video. I believe it's like a couple hours long. So it's just faster to read her opening statement. So that's who we have. That's who's in charge. And we just heard, as you know, that we do have an Assistant Secretary of Labor for OSHA nominee. From what I know, he was nominated on February 11th. His name is David Keeling. I did put, I don't know if you'll be happy about this, but I did put a QR code to his LinkedIn. Sometimes it worked on my phone, sometimes it didn't. It just took me to sign up for LinkedIn. So I did write it out, but you can't miss him. One of the things that I noticed is he doesn't have a professional shot. So I looked at this picture, and this is the only photo that's really going around in social media or news. So that's the only picture we have. That's also the picture that he has on his LinkedIn. But hopefully we'll get a more professional one. But this is who he is. He's a global workforce safety veteran. So he has worked for UPS for most of his career. He worked there for 4 decades. He did try and go into Amazon for a couple of years. I believe those were from 2021 to 2023. And I'm not surprised he didn't last, because we all know Amazon's reputation. People don't seem to last very long. It's a difficult industry. But he currently is still with UPS. Obviously, he's gonna be our new Assistant Secretary of Labor for OSHA. So what does his nomination signal? I think it's potential shifts in workplace safety policy, his enforcement priorities and regulatory focus, although we'll see what happens there. But he comes, from 2 of the top 50, companies out in the world. So he does have a global experience. I try to look to see if he had what his educational background is, and I just couldn't find any acronyms like we know here, in our safety, like CSP, CHSTs. I didn't see any of that. Doesn't mean he doesn't have it, but he definitely has experience. So with UPS, he started with them as a handler in 1985. So he's worked his way up, and he's had multiple safety leadership roles. So I'm optimistic as well. His obviously firsthand knowledge is the safety of, massive logistics company. How does that translate to construction? We'll see and find out. So he does have a great reputation. He had backing from the Coalition for Workplace Safety. The Teamsters applauded his selection. So, we'll wait and see. That's really all I have about him. So once he gets confirmed, I think we'll learn more about him. I've already reached out to him on LinkedIn. I'm already stalking him, and he accepted my invitation. So we're hopefully we'll be able to meet with him and continue the NAWIC charge of keeping, women in the forefront of construction. Is there any questions, Savannah? I just keep going.
No questions yet.
Good. All right. So for those of you that love stats like I do, I love to look at stats. I just threw a couple slides in just to kind of give you a visual of total Fed OSHA inspections. So as you see in the first Trump administration, from 2017 to 2020, you could see that the OSHA inspections were going down. Under the Biden inspection, it's actually the highest it's ever been. So since I believe it's 2016. So you could see the trend. So we anticipate the trend now again on second administration, that it's going to go down again. So it'll be fun to watch those stats for us geeks that like to see graphs. So here's a significant enforcement action. So you could see how the fines just continued to go up. We had Trump average about 174 a year on significant enforcement policies that you could see, and you could see the numbers here. And Biden averaged about 309, can't see that, 310. It's really small on my screen. A year. So you can see that was highly regulated. And again, as a small business, I understand the struggles. And just being out in industry, I hear it a lot. So just some geeky graphs for you to take a look at. So how do we prepare? What should employers prepare for under the Keeling's leadership? Again, we won't know till he's in there, but this is what we in industry are talking about. Obviously, I really hope and believe there's going to be a rollback on electronic injury reporting. It was such a cumbersome process. It was just especially small businesses, was just really difficult to follow. Some of you may know or not know, but I actually got my hands. It was on this public data release. The Biden administration released over 900,000 names of organizations that received fines, and they're going to stop that. So we anticipate that happening. So I was shocked. I don't think I'd seen a data release like that in many, many years, and I've been at this for 30 years. I believe they're gonna, the walk around rule that, if you don't know, it allows employees to bring third-party representatives, including union officials, along for OSHA inspections, even in non-union workplaces. So that was a rule, but we anticipate they're gonna scrap that. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. And then the heat endless regulation, it's on pause. We already know that. So we expect Keeling's OSHA to press pause on it, on the standard, while he and OSHA carefully review comments submitted during the rulemaking phase, and either significantly revise the one-size-fits-all nature of the current proposed standard or scrap it altogether. I don't think they're going to scrap it. I mean, it's still an important, very important, ruling that we're looking at, especially in the hot states out there. So I don't anticipate. I think they're going to review it and probably make it, a little shorter, or make sure they really focus on what's really necessary in that rulemaking, because there was a lot of backlash on how the rule was written, and it just created a lot of unnecessary work for employers out there, especially in the construction industry. So I don't know, but I just don't anticipate it going away. In a lot of states, they have their own, they're going to hold on to that. So always refer back to if you have a specific state OSHA regulation or division, you make sure you go back to your state, because that's still gonna, hold, and you still got to meet compliance on that. Reshaping OSHA's inspection enforcement priorities. Yes, they're going to do that. I don't anticipate seeing much change really in construction, because again, it's high industry. They're really going to focus on the industries that obviously have the most injuries. So they're really going to focus on that. They might focus on manufacturing, logistics, warehousing. I think they're going to hold on to that. We don't anticipate them not focusing on those. So again, OSHA focus on high risk industries, construction, manufacturing, logistics, and warehousing. So there might be more in there, but that's what we're anticipating is going to happen. Again, we won't know till he's there, but that's what I would look at. While Biden's OSHA finally scrapped plans to finalize an outdated COVID-19 regulation last month, it started the ball rolling on broader infectious disease. So again, that's mostly on the healthcare. So we do anticipate a lot of focus on that. Again, look at your state take a look at that and just focus your state OSHA guidelines. But with all the potential federal rollback states with their own OSHA plan, and we have California, Washington, and Oregon may take the lead in implementing stricter rules. So if you're in California, Washington, Oregon, sorry, status quo. So what should you do now? Let's get into that. So you have the history, you know what's happening in industry. Everything's still up in the air, except we now have someone that's been nominated, Chavez de Rimmer. I don't know why I can't say it. I want to say Ramier, but I think that's an Orange County, California thing. So just remember just to keep review of your safety programs. That's what I advise you to do. Don't get complacent because it's the deregulation process. We still have regulations that we need to follow. So I highly recommend that you review your safety program. I highly recommend that you train managers and supervisors on heat illness prevention, injury and illness prevention, and compliance best practices. So I think most construction have their team go either through a 10 or a 30-hour. Continue that practice, just stay on top of it. Make sure you continuously monitor regulatory updates, because I'm giving you this information. Again, we don't really know until things settle down and we start seeing the focus and see the plan. So I don't anticipate anything really happening this year except reviews and putting a hold on some of these regulations, or maybe even removing some of the ones that are really difficult. So just keep an eye out and make sure you always audit your records. You need to do that. So just stay on top of it. That's the best thing to do. I want to go into just a little bit detail. I kind of already talked about it, so I might just kind of slide through this kind of quickly, but the walk around we talked about. Trump, I think, is going to drop the government defense of this rule. So I don't think that's going to happen. And that's, again, it's very controversial. So as you see there, so just, I wouldn't worry about that. I just really don't anticipate, they're just put a pause on that. The hazard communication, so updates to the HAZCOM standards to maintain alignment with GHS, revision 7, that's one of the final rules. We don't know. Again, I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen with that, but everything is for sure under review. Improved tracking of workplace injuries came under the Biden OSHA. So Trump is expected to revisit during his, this term. So it's just a very cumbersome process. I anticipate that they're going to probably get rid of a lot of the steps that the Biden administration has put in for us. PPE in construction, as I mentioned earlier, we're excited. That's going to stay. It's already part of law, and I don't anticipate anything different happening with that. So just remember, all PPE should fit. So women, please go to your employers if they're not doing that already, because your safety is absolutely priority. The workaround representative rule was effective in May 31st of last year, 2024. So I've already touched on this. So just, again, keep an eye on it, but I doubt it's going to continue. We talked about the OSHA reporting requirements. So since last year, January, the U.S. Department of Labor implemented expanding the submission requirements that directly impact certain high hazard industries. So we went from one form, now we have Form 300, which we're familiar with, log of work related injuries and illnesses. Then we have Form 301 for injury and illness incident reports. And in addition to that, we have Form 300A, which is a summary of work-related injuries and illnesses, which was already required. So these are the 3 steps. And again, this is one of the bigger questions that I receive from many of my clients and industry leader, business owners needing a little bit of assistance on how to properly do this. It was just so confusing. So that's just a little bit of a summary there. So the goal was for them to improve data quality. They wanted to get more accurate numbers. They will also need to include their legal company names, so there's nothing new. I think we've already talked about a lot of this. So it's an annual task, as you know, and we do know that these changes will remain in effect for 2025. So don't get complacent on that. You still have to continue moving forward with that. We talked about PPE, so just to go in a little bit more detail on that. So PPE must fit properly to provide protection for who it's designed for. So as women in construction, as you know, it's been really challenging when they give us men fitted or fit all, one size fit all. It really doesn't work that way. There was just a lot of potential injuries that were happening. We also talk about, pregnant women. We have so many things. So effective January 13th of 2025, the new rule mandated. But again, this was already mandated in general industry. It just wasn't written, even though it has been followed, I believe, by most construction organizations that I've interacted with. But just know that it is a legal requirement, and yay for us. So make sure that if you're not getting that, I believe this QR code will send you to that. So send it to your bosses, so it'll help you fight your battle. But that should already be happening. So what are some things you can prepare as an organization with this new regulation? So you've got to have access to current PPE inventory. So evaluate the PPE that you currently have, determined, according to your workforce, diverse size and shapes. There's a lot of women vendors that are selling women PPE. And I know I have a lot of people here that know of those organizations. So if you can do me a favor and put some of those companies in the chat, that way, and we'll make sure we get that information out, because there's some great companies that are really focusing that are also supporters of NAWIC. I just can't think of them right now, and I didn't write them down, so I apologize for that. But there's great organizations that are out there ready for us. Engage these PPE suppliers. So when I follow up for those that want a copy, I'll make sure that I include information on some of those suppliers. Just collaborate with them and make sure they have a source of range of PPE sizes, ensure timely availability. I think that's some of the feedback I've received, because it was a new rule and people are really starting to focus on that there. Some of these vendors are running out of product pretty quickly. So we'll give you a few options to kind of take a look at that. Make sure that you implement training programs on how to properly use your PPE. You should already be doing that. That's just basic safety. And then document your compliance efforts. We all know document. That's all we have. So just maintain your records of PPE assessments, employee feedback and training sections to demonstrate that you are focusing on this, and make sure that you're meeting all requirements set by this new rule.
Marjorie, we do have a question. Do you know any updates on the hard hat discussion, moving to the helmet style with the chin strap?
They haven't mandated, but I do know that OSHA has switched out all their hard hats to the helmets, and my organization as well, company-wide, we did switch over to hard hats. There's a lot of construction companies that are doing that. It's a lot safer, but it's not a mandate. It's a very expensive process. Helmets are very expensive, but they do save lives. I highly recommend helmets. Again, I made sure all of my employees have the helmets. It's just safer while they're on the field. So that's really all I have. So it is in the forefront and people are talking about it. I was just at a NAWIC event yesterday where we had a construction company talk about that. I don't recall their name, but they mentioned during a roundtable discussion in our safety table that they had already switched over. So I highly recommend you do that. I know there's a higher cost to it, but it saves lives. So how do you put a price on that? Thank you for your question. Okay, good old heat illness prevention. Let's talk a little bit about that. Again, the QR code takes you straight to DIR, where you'll find more information on this. But OSHA will implement new regulations to protect workers in hot environments. So that's happening. That's already happening, especially in state levels. You just have to follow that. Employees should develop and implement a heat illness prevention plan. Again, must do that to move forward on getting that taken care of. Heat safety, employers must maintain records of indoor monitoring data for at least 6 months. Employers must create incident reports, processes for heat-related incidents, and employers must conduct regular audits of heat safety measures. So let's just keep that going. How do you prepare for the heat stress? Here's some ideas for you. So obviously continuously monitor the heat conditions. Establish protocol to regularly assess the heat conditions, especially in warehouses. I've noticed as I'm going to visit, we all focus on construction outside, but you also have, distribution centers, or you have locations that could get really hot in there. So just pay attention to that. Make sure you are developing the heat illness prevention plan. Provide necessary resources. We know they need water, shaded areas. I'm not going to go down and give you a heat stress class, but if you want more information on what you should be doing, just let me know and I'll make sure I send you. We have a little summary sheet that we put together for our clients. I'll be more than happy to share that. And educate. Just make sure you continuously train your employees, record keeping, training, and make sure you have a great policy in place. There's a lot of great resources out there that you don't have to pay a consultant to do. So just go look for them. I know AGC have some great resources, especially here in California, that you can go to. So there's a lot of downloadable policies that you can really utilize. I didn't want to not go through lead exposure because the state, like California, will enforce stricter regulations to protect workers from lead. This is a big discussion here in California, I understand, in other states as well. So just give you a heads up, and if you're not dealing with that yet in your particular state, but they are looking at permissible exposure limits, the PELs. They want to decrease it from 50 micrograms per cubic meter to 10. So the action level decreases from 30, again, micrograms per cubic meter to 2. Companies must monitor lead levels in the workplace. So I just want to briefly, because I want to remind you of that. That's a big discussion, especially here in California. Some other good news, maybe not. I don't think this still, it is in place. It became effective January 15th. So if you don't know, penalties have increased. So the maximum penalty for serious or other than serious violations increased from 16,131 to 16,550 per violation. So remember that. The maximum penalty for willful or repeated violation increased again. It's the same number, as you can see there, from 161,323 and increased to 165,514 per violation. So be aware of that. Look into that. If you need more information, there's a QR code again that'll take you and let you know about all the penalty increases. Well, I was visiting Washington. One of their big focuses was mental health, and I don't believe that'll go away. I think that's going to continue be an OSHA spotlight. So mental health is just, there was a big emphasis on it. It's so important. We're talking into workplace violence, mental health issues. And when I visited OSHA, that was always part of their discussion in our construction roundtables. But it's a serious matter, and I hope to continue to see that special emphasis from OSHA. I don't anticipate that going away. It's the mental health concerns really after COVID and during COVID really took a spike. So there's just a lot of emphasis. So just take a look at that. So during the Biden administration, this was the national emphasis programs that they really focus. These are temporary programs that focus OSHA's resources to hazards and high hazard industries. So I just wanted to point that out. Existing and potential new emphasis programs are evaluated using inspection data, which is why we need your logs and injury and illness data. So NIOSH, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, reports that peer-reviewed literature, analysis of inspections findings, and other available information sources are available. So this has been the national emphasis program. We have combustible dust, infectious disease, fall protection, prevention's always high, especially in our industry. Lead, silica is big. There's a lot of discussion around silica, trench shoring, and warehousing. So I don't anticipate that going anywhere. So that should continue on. But again, we'll wait and see. So that really summarized, I kind of went a little quick on that. It's different when you can't have constant communication, but And summarizing this, just like I said, there's no new regulations. Current pending regulations are under review, but don't become complacent when it comes to that. Just continue to focus on your safety programs. I gave you a little bit of history on where we are as an administration, so I will continue to take a look at that and be a resource for you guys. This is my second year speaking during NAWIC, and I'm just really honored to be able to be here. I do want to give credit where credit is due. You'll see my credits. I did get a lot of information from those organizations as I was doing my research for this particular event. But there's my information. I'm available. I have a direct line. It's not my cell phone, but it's a direct line. So if you have any questions as you absorb all this information, or you have any information you'd like to share, or as NAWIC ladies, if there's special topics that you're really interested for us to be your voice in OSHA, just send those questions and those topics to me, and I'll make sure that our OSHA Alliance chair gets those. So at this point, I think we can open it up to questions. Any questions?
Yes. I have someone saying, I'm very new to the industry. We own roofing supply and installation companies, and I want to know what certifications I need from OSHA to be compliant in Texas.
In Texas, so I will need to look. I think you guys have your own state. I'm not sure regulation. I'll need to look into that. But the first thing you want to do, obviously, is I highly recommend you taking your leadership, maybe taking a 30-hour OSHA course. That's really important, and it helps you also with the bidding process. Your employees should all go through a 10-hour. Just take a look at your state guidelines. I can do some little bit of research for you. I don't have it off the top of my head, but I'll be more than happy to provide that. Just start with, writing your policies and procedures. Take a look at it. There's a lot of resources, even in NAWIC, so that we do have a safety page. We just updated our website, so I'm not sure. I haven't looked at it lately, but there were a lot of resources for you. If you go to the OSHA website, the federal OSHA, they do have a small business link that you can go to, and it provides you a lot of free documents on what you need to do to follow. So there's a lot of resources. You just have to go get them. OSHA really has it really figured out. They have, again, just one section in their website that focuses on small business, that walks you A to Z on what you need to do to make sure that your organization is in compliance with all standards. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, Dora also added in the chat, Texas has its own occupational safety and health program called the Texas Division of Occupational Health and Occupational Safety and Health. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, thank you.
Alex, yes, if you drop your email in the chat, we'll get the presentation sent to you.
Any more questions? Did you
Not
learn something? Let me know. Let me know. All right, perfect. Well, thank you. We're finished a little bit earlier, but how do you do a 6? Oh, you have something?
Do you mind? I have one question that just came in.
Sure.
There's so much confusion about how close to active construction one must be to require PPE. Some have gone to 100% PPE once inside construction limits. Some push back wearing it if they feel they are far enough away from work activity. Does OSHA have any rules?
Everybody must have PPE. There's no question about that. So if there's any hazards, make sure that everybody has the appropriate personal protective equipment. So in construction, I've never heard of maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. So it's just good practice to make sure that everybody has the appropriate PPE, and making sure that they're actually utilizing it.
Perfect. Thank you. That was the last question.
Okay, good. Again, if you ladies enjoy NAWIC and week, Women in Construction Week, we're really excited. We're all pumped, and a lot of us are a little tired because we're attending every single event. But I'm excited to be here, part of your WIC week. And if you again have any questions, just email me. You want a copy, put your email into the chat menu. Other than that, I think we're good, and everybody be safe out there.
Thank you so much, Marjorie. A happy WIC week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.